And so the scene right before she meets his mother is also where we get his 98th percentile and protective instincts, where...
All right. I hate to derail us already, but like, how do you think they measure? What kind of standardized tests questions do you think they ask to measure your protective instincts? Welcome to Bible Boys, a podcast where two ex-evangelical siblings and an ex-Catholic non-sibling watch Christian media and either praise or condemn it. I'm Aaron.
I'm Josh.
And I'm Michael.
This week, we talk about football and family in the 2009 film The Blind Side. Before we review the Millennial Generation's Green Book, please be sure to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, like and comment on our video, and follow us on Twitter at The Bible Boys. Oh.
I feel like I've made both of my parents proud by watching both a football movie and a Sandra Bullock movie in the same one. Like, this was really a two birds, one stone situation.
Yeah, this was definitely our perfect Venn diagram of our parents.
Finally, a Bible Boys you can show your parents. I guess the real question is, are you ready for some football?
Ba-da-da, ba-da-da.
Literally never. I watched part of this movie in the gym, and the part I watched in the gym was the football part, so that way I wouldn't have to pay attention to the football part.
This does not surprise me.
Josh, you are, our resident sports expert here. Can you explain, what's the story around Michael Orr and The Blind Side real quick?
Dude's really good at football. Do you want to explain the plot of the movie or what football is?
No, that'll be Michael's job, as this is his pick. But just based on what you know about football, can you explain what the importance of this movie is?
Yes. So he was a lineman. I think he retired in 17 or 18, but he was a lineman, which is normally not a very flashy position. When you think of football players, most people can name a couple quarterbacks, some running backs. Occasionally you'll remember a linebacker, but defensive, offensive line, who the fuck knows those guys? Partially because they're very large. Sometimes they're they don't look how people want people who are athletic to look. They've got mass on them because they have to be actually strong, not showy strong. And his main job, as they say over and over and over and over and over and over again, is to just, make sure the quarterback doesn't get tackled while the quarterback does all the flashy stuff.
Is it his job to protect the quarterback's blind side?
Yes.
Just clarifying, because we didn't have that explicitly said multiple times in the film.
Oh, yeah. And you want someone there that's going to be good at protecting. So good at protecting. That's
someone
their only personality trait.
Objectively measured on their tests to be good at protecting, which we'll talk about.
Their school test of protecting. Yeah,
what would our scores be on protectiveness?
Our protective instincts on our Tennessee state exams.
We can't teach you evolution, but we will teach you whether or not you're protective.
You actually have to score higher on that than you do your SAT. That has to be higher than whatever your SAT score is to get into Tennessee.
Oh my god.
But that's all you need to know about football is the lineman's job is to protect the quarterback. Literally nothing else matters in reference to this movie.
Incidentally, the film does a really good job of explaining that and just that. And doesn't get any more detailed.
Excellent. Great. Michael, do you want to hit us with a synopsis?
Yeah, so honestly, the plot of this film is really easy to explain. I think the interesting details come when you contrast it with the real story and then contextualize it. I think that is way more interesting. But so we start with a 17-year-old kid named Michael Oher, who is called Big Mike. And he's been in foster families. His mom's a drug addict. His dad is not in the picture whatsoever. And he's been sleeping on a friend's dad's couch, who is asking this football coach of this Christian school to enroll both his son and Big Mike. And the coach is like basically seeing dollar signs, and instead he's seeing footballs. And he's like, yeah, that kid should be a football player.
Which I want to point out,
And
in Tennessee, that does work for legal tender.
And so basically he gets admitted even though he has like the lowest GPA one could have without actually failing out, right? So like it's mentioned that teachers keep giving him D's and passing him, so he ends up going to a different school and he becomes the other school's problem. And so this kid has been bounced and bounced around, really just like underserviced by the education system. And so he ends up meeting this white family who teaches him all sorts of things about football and family and love. And, you know, it is a tale as old as time in Hollywood, right? So he ends up befriending SJ, which is Sean Jr. He is, if I'm not mistaken, they find Leanne, his mom, finds him walking to the gym and is like, what are you doing? It's very cold out here. You're not in enough clothes. Where are you going? My kid says you're going to the gym. That gym is closed. And Leanne is like she's kind of like exactly the caricature of what the like New South mom is in the suburbs, right? Like she's a working mom who loves God and the NRA and like has blonde bangs and these gal pals that she lunches with, but she's a Karen with a heart of gold, basically.
She's a working mom who does try too hard, and she does love her kids, and she'll never stop.
I mean, I do want to also couch this with the fact that they introduced this family by saying that the patriarch, Sean, does own, quote, like 1 million KFCs and Taco Bells. So, like,
Yeah.
She doesn't need to be this weird designer lady. You know, she just does that for fun, which, like, you know, good for her, I guess.
Let's put a pin in that one.
Oh, good.
But she, like, is pretty successful and, like, you know, she's like this caricature of what this should be. And so she sees a kid in need and is like, we got to help him. So the family decides to bring him in to their home. And, you know, at first it's like a temporary thing, like, hey, it's cold. You can't sleep at the closed gym and you need a place to stay. And also, like, I'm going to take you shopping at Big and Tall for a new set of outfits. We end up learning that, okay, his dad is dead, apparently due to some sort of accident. And Leanne wakes up the day after she's taken him in and is like, where did he go? And she like chases him down their like long driveway. And it's like, where are you going? Like, where are you headed, Michael? And he's like, I don't know. I'm just kind of leaving. Don't want to take advantage. Bye. And she's like, no, you're eating Thanksgiving dinner with me if you don't have anywhere to go. And in a like kind of cute scene, actually, I'll admit, I thought it was cute. The family's all like in the living room, eating in front of the TV, watching football, and Michael's sitting at the table, and Leanne sees that, turns off the TV, and just moves everything to the table.
I would have thought that scene was cute if it wasn't preceded by Michael looking at a picture, like a picture, like a coffee table book of like, it looked like a fucking Norman Rockwell of like all this, like this typical nuclear family, like gathered around this turkey. And like the way it would have been fine if they had cut that, but they didn't. And it made it really paternal. And, you know,
Yep.
We're going to get into that in a bit, but there are so many caveats with this film, unfortunately.
Yeah, no cute scene is without an asterisk. That's something I will say. I have a lot of fun facts for this film. That's kind of why I'm breezing through the plot. Like, I have kind of a novel worth of fun facts and a little game that I'm going to make my co-host play.
I also have so many points that I just want to call these people are blatantly racist, and I was going to sprinkle them through the synopsis, but I think we should cover them all in one big go.
I think you should sprinkle them through the synopsis.
Okay, so I want to point out that while SJ was going home, like they were driving home from his play, he played Native American number 3. And he said that he wanted to be the chief, but unfortunately, due to the racial politics of his school, he did not get to that performance.
They gave it to a Chinese kid, which is really funny, actually.
We don't see. You have to take our word for it that
Asians
there are
in this movie.
It just was. I heard that, and then just, Tim McGraw sitting up in the front seat going like, "Hey, son, don't do that." Yeah, the dad's Tim McGraw. We kind of blew right through that, but yeah, the dad's Tim McGraw.
The country singer.
Yes, the country singer.
I couldn't have picked that motherfucker out of a hat. I was like, I've seen him before, but maybe just on Facebook memes, and I don't know why.
He's out here living like he's dying, man.
Oh, you know what? I'm glad. I'm glad Tim finally found a soft place to land.
How many Tim McGraw references can I squeeze in here?
I feel like there's going to be no dearth of Tim McGraw references that approximately 4 of our listeners get. So if that's you, you should comment.
It's important to know that our mother had, and probably still has, the largest crush on Tim McGraw. So through our entire life, we listened to an ungodly amount of his music, his okay music. And so we did watch this movie partially because he was in it, and also it was him and Sandra were like, our mom was going to see it. Like, that's how you get Mama Green into the seats.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm kind of with her on Sandy. I'll watch just about anything Sandy's in, even if it's not very good.
Even if her southern accent makes me want to drive a pickaxe through my ears.
What, you didn't find it believable?
It was real rough, man.
You mean Sandy Bullock from Arlington, Virginia can't give a real strong southern accent?
I thought it was fine. But I'm from the Midwest, so we think any accent is believable.
It almost sometimes did veer into Gwen Shamblin territory, and I was like, is she going to start telling me that God wants me to be thin?
50% of the time, it was passable. The other 50%, it was a caricature.
Absolutely. Okay, so basically, like, Michael starts integrating a little bit more. Leanne takes Michael to where he says his mom lives. There's an eviction notice. He's like, you need to stay in the car. She basically, like, we know his mom is gone. He doesn't tell her outright, but he's like really slowly coming in. And then we get a scene that I have to talk about. The Real Housewives of Tennessee scene where they're all eating lunch. So Leanne is eating lunch with all of her very white friends in what looks like maybe like a Buca de Beppo, like a upscale Olive Garden, basically. And her friends are all concerned trolling racist tropes at her, saying, like, aren't you worried about your daughter that's around the same age living in your home with a big black guy? And they literally say that. Like, it's not like an insinuation that they're walking around. They literally just say it.
The most wild part to me is they do that after tiptoeing around it, and then Sandra Bullock being like, hey, cut it the fuck off, y'all. Like, don't do that. And then there's like a 3-second pause, and they're like, but what about this racist trope?
I mean, they literally compare him on their Christmas card to Jessica Lange and King Kong, which is like, the most, like, if you're looking for fucking racist tropes, you have to go back. Like, that's quite a pull.
Right,
but
and
like, here's the thing. I'm a little bit, like, I'm not glad, I don't love depictions of racism, like, at any time. But, like, I am glad that they did it because, like, people are like that. Like, those people exist.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Totally. And like to do that over something that's so innocent as the Christmas card. So just to back up for a second, like the family's all taking photos and Michael's just kind of like sitting hanging out. And like he's lived with them, we get the sense for a little while, but it's not been a ton of time yet. And Leanne calls him over and her husband just looks at her and she's like, "What? I'm not going to put him on the Christmas card," and proceeds to put him on the Christmas card.
And like everything else with this movie, I was like, oh, that's so cute. And then it's immediately used for a drunk uncle to call in to say, hey, do you know there's a slur in the back of your picture? Anyway, bye. And I'm like, that's awesome. Yay.
I'm so excited for my game. You two are not even ready. This scene has to do with it.
I'm so scared.
Can't wait.
Yeah. It's a fun one.
No, it is. So yeah, like then later that night, Leanne's like asking her daughter Collins, "What do you like? How are you feeling about all of this?" And Collins is like, "What? We're gonna kick him out on the street? Like, I don't care. My brother loves the attention. Kids at school are being dumb." And this is like maybe the first time it's dawned on Leanne that kids at school could be like saying nasty shit. And all I could think of is, God, how privileged is it not to know that kids are bullies?
Well, it is a Christian school, Michael.
That's true.
Yeah,
No one's
Christians
ever.
are worse bullies.
I do want to point out that when Michael first suggested this to us, Aaron went, "Is that a Christian movie?" And I wish we could have just played him the opening 5 minutes in which the football coach goes,
Yeah,
"What are
yeah.
we? We're a Christian school."
If we don't believe that, we better paint it out of our logo. And I was like, oh, okay, this is what they were talking about.
Yeah.
And like basically every scene with that Leanne is like, I'm not changing his life. He's changing mine. She wears this cross necklace and like kind of barrels the camera. And it's like, okay, we get it.
And she almost like taps it like it's like
Yeah.
like, hey, you see? It's really wild how Christian this film is and how much mainstream praise it got. Like, I just find it very, very odd, but also very indicative of when it came out. So we learned that Michael would really like to get a driver's license. He really is liking the idea of having something with his name on it that he earned. And Leanne was like, all right, you know what? That's a valid argument. But they're running into some trouble because like they can't find any of his records and all of that. And
the mean government agent did not even take a bribe. And, like, how dare they? How dare they not accept a bribe from the... She literally said, "I'll pay whatever it takes," and stares this woman in the eyes.
I like when she asked for a manager, and she just nodded to the person on the wall, who was George W. Bush, prominently featured in our last episode.
And then she goes, I could get this place together in 2 weeks. And it's like, yeah, I'm sure that Leanne could run this country better than George W. Bush did.
She seems like a great manager, I'm sure.
I want to see her opinions on foreign policy before she has my vote. Yeah. Aaron's face says it all.
Listen, I mean, we get an inkling into what their foreign policy opinions are like when we meet the tutor, but we'll let Michael continue.
Yeah. I think we can ask very few questions about this family's politics. As a white family in Tennessee, I don't think we need to say more. So Leanne has now gotten an idea in her brain. She is going to become Michael's legal guardian. She learns that he was taken from his mother, who was addicted to drugs and alcohol when he was about 7. No one knows where she's at. And that he comes from like a really huge family that they don't even know really the extent of any of this. Basically, like what is being said here is the system is failing so badly that we don't have any information for you. And this is where we get vigilante justice through Leanne, who decides to go meet his mom.
Oh, they literally just said, "We have no idea where she's at." And then the next scene is her finding this woman.
I'm sure, Michael, you have notes on like how much of this movie actually took place. And like, I mean, this isn't unbelievable, right? I definitely in jobs that I've worked in, like, you can track people down with very little information if you just talk to the right people. So like, it's possible, but it does show the degree to which Leanne Tui was like willing to, if this actually happened, find this guy's mom. And like, I do have to respect that a little bit. Like, if this was indeed a thing that took place, her willingness to actually speak to his mom and get her permission to adopt him, that is decent, because like, she does bring up in the movie, like, the fact that like he's a ward of the state, so she could, as long as the judge approves it, like, she can just adopt him. And she doesn't think that's right. And like, there are very few positive points that I will give to this movie. That is one of them. I'm glad that they brought up that criticism.
Absolutely. And so the scene right before she meets his mother is also where we get his 98th percentile in protective instincts, where...
All right. I hate to derail us already, but like, how do you think they measure? What kind of standardized tests questions do you think they ask to measure your protective instincts?
So I've worked in a school for quite a while now, so I've actually been pretty familiar with this one. It's a pretty weird standardized test that we have to do. So we put a kitten on a table, and then we grab a hammer, and at what point they stop us is their grade.
You just do the Milgram experiment on everybody who comes through.
Fuck. Oh my god.
So yeah, that's pretty good.
It is Tennessee. Like, look, all the love in the world to the people of Tennessee, but your government, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and hey, Tennessee, we're going to go hard on you this time. That's because you're like 3 to 4 years us in the future if stuff goes bad over here.
Yeah, shut the fuck up, y'all. The rest of us with fucking Republican governors have been eating shit, and for one, I'm glad to see Virginia taken down a peg. Todd Youngkin, 2024, 26, whenever he gets reelected, just to humble my co-host.
I think he can't run for reelection. Thank God for dumb old laws.
Oh, Virginia. Welcome to the South. Yet again.
Welcome back. We keep ducking and weaving in and out. So we find like he is apparently very protective, but everything else he's scored so low on. And Liam literally just asks, like, what's the thing he scored good on? Like, this doesn't seem to help. I do wish, I'm like, this is asking too much of this film and of a lot of people, that there was like a conversation about how public schooling failed Michael. Like, this didn't happen in a vacuum, right? Like, you don't take an 8th grade aptitude test for your career and score so low on everything except something that is arguably personality driven, and it be like something that comes from the ether, right? Like, didn't have the support at home, didn't receive the support at school, and instead it just kind of becomes like the villain of this film is kind of nebulous, but it's always...
Is it?
I have an answer.
I think there is a pretty implicit villain of this film, and I don't like what they're trying to say.
Well, every villain in this film is black, and the big lesson is the inner city is bad. So,
which I don't know how in the entire first half of this movie, in my opinion, minus the opening scene, which is wild, the villain is economic strife. Like, this
poverty,
this is a kid who can't succeed simply because he does not have a safe place to go to bed. Like, he does not have a safe home environment. Literally, the moment he is given that, and then he's given money and a tutor, resources, like, people who care about him, he succeeds. Even before a safe home and all of that, he was in the school system for a month before he got, like, adopted. And he was failing then as well because it didn't fix, going to a nice school doesn't fix your socioeconomic situation. And then the movie's like, what if we made this weird?
The film was like, we need more like dramatic juxtapositions. So what is the opposite of a white suburban family? And
We can't have this movie end with him, protecting his family from capitalism.
right. And I don't know, it's just really, really frustrating. So at one point, like, we just constantly see those things, but we do get to see a little instant of Michael being protective. So we see him and SJ in a car. They're driving to go get a new video game. They're like singing and dancing and having a good time. And this like work truck backs up kind of abruptly, like it's out of scene. One of those that one could argue, even if he was looking, it just happened too fast. And he hits the truck, but the first thing he does is protect who is basically his little brother at this point, who doesn't end up getting hurt by the airbags, gets like a little bit of swelling, bloody nose. And Leanne puts it together pretty fast. She runs to the scene, checks on Michael, checks on SJ. And SJ is like making jokes and is like, can you get blood out of this shirt? And this kid is precocious at best. Like, he is something. And yeah, like we get to see that side of him displayed. And I like it more when films show versus tell. So I'm glad that we got this scene because it did show like, hey, you actually have that, rather than them just saying this is a thing.
If this was the first like instance of it, like, because there have been other instances where he was like, pushing some little kids on the swing, that he's shown these like a sweet guy. If this like is when and even prior to this, he's shown having like trouble, like he's struggling a little bit with football, not really sure how to do it. How dumb they show this man infuriates me to a level I can't describe, where they like go like, hey, you have to push the lineman. So he then like picks him up. And I'm like, I understand this is supposed to be a bit of a comedic moment, but can we not do it at the expense of this person so everyone can just call him fucking dumb? Like,
Yeah, you know who also felt that way about this portrayal is Michael Orr, which we'll talk about at the end of this podcast.
Yes, we will. Yes, we will. Because can you blame him?
and they at one point I thought they were like, it's been a while since I've seen this. One of the teachers is like, yeah, it's just his reading like level. That's what's down. Like, he's retaining the knowledge if you talk to him. If you do a verbal test, he does better. And just give this kid a fucking like headphones and a laptop to take these fucking tests. And then bam.
Well, yeah, and what we see is like we do see individual teachers like believing in him and kind of making an effort even before we see Leanne do so. But they kind of start putting together, okay, like this is like something that he responds to. And so Leanne explains football to him in ways of their family and how to protect each individual player. And that clicks and he starts doing it. And basically he ends up playing so well that they're like, wait, he could go to college on this. And like, this could actually be something. And so they hire a tutor. And we have to talk about Miss Sue.
Miss Sue rules, has maybe the only funny joke in this movie.
Miss Sue is a spiritual but not religious Democrat who is hired by this family to teach Michael and to tutor him so that he can get his grade point average up to go to school. And I just love her. She's played by Kathy Bates, who just acts like it's her last role in everything she's ever been in, and this is no exception. We learn she is a Democrat because she goes, okay, there's something I've got to tell you. I usually don't tell people, but I feel like you've got to know before we get into this. And you can just see Leanne's face, like the gears turning, like what could it be? And she just deadpans, well, I'm a Democrat.
It's a good goof.
It's very indicative of the time period where, 15 years ago, you could tell someone that and it wouldn't get you immediately kicked out of a Republican's house. Or vice versa. To be fair, I would not let a Republican teach my child.
No, me neither.
Yeah, I hope some people are cool with registered Democrats teaching their kids in the South.
If not, they're going to really struggle to find teachers. I hate to tell all of you.
Oh, man, I'm nervous.
So Michael's grades go up, and he's starting to be heavy recruited by all these schools. And the University of Mississippi, which is where both Leanne and Sean went to school, is the one that he really wants to go to. But the NCAA, the National Collegiate Athletic Association, for those of you who don't know it off the top of your head like me, was like, we've got to investigate this because we think that you have influenced him because they have a house there, they're donors, they've done all these things, and basically accuses this family of like picking him up off the streets and grooming him into this.
Which I don't think is an unfair accusation. I mean, like, do I think that they did this out of the goodness of their hearts? Like, yeah, absolutely. But they do also seed the crops of doubt throughout this this movie in that
There's
like
a
they have
montage.
It's really
Right.
funny. I think my favorite bit was where Miss Sue was like, "Hey, did you know that in the college that he's thinking of, University of Tennessee, I want to say, their science department actually buries all or like keeps all of their their anatomical corpses, like the body parts for them, under the football stadium, and like." Which is like really, really funny. I liked that a lot. But like that's the thing was like, oh, they definitely like did not. They wanted him to go to Ole Miss real bad.
So they didn't want him to go to Tennessee, and like they've said they don't like Tennessee. I will say, when there are cases that we have seen of people literally bribing officials, I just can't get worked up over something like this.
That's the thing. This played in 2009. Like, now it's like, I don't give a shit. You can you rich people, if you want to sponsor as many great underprivileged athletes as you want, go right ahead. It's better than fucking sending shit into space. It's better than, fucking paying off test proctors. Like, geez, just please do it.
Felicity Huffman's response to being arrested. Ruh-roh.
Yeah, like, it's fine. It's fine. Rich people, God.
I think I'm gonna bring the mood down a little bit and say why I absolutely hated that joke deeply to my core, and that's because historically, white people used spiritual like ghost stories as a way of enticing enslaved individuals to do what they were told and not run away. So just the fucking undead metaphor being told to direct this black man of what college he should go to, it just rubbed me the wrong way.
That's fair. You got me there.
Yeah, I mean, can't argue with that one. Can I bring up something else, seeing as we're like getting down in the mood? So the NCAA like investigator, she's played as such a villain for doing her job.
For no reason,
I think it's no accident that she is a black woman. And like a lot of the authority figures that are portrayed as villainous and like and not villainous, but antagonists to the storyline and like oppositional are black characters. And it's just like it grated at me, especially by this point, because it's like, okay, she's asking questions that all of us might have here, and it's literally her job. She is getting paid to investigate this. She's not doing it because she doesn't want him to go to college. She's like, hey, have you made this choice on your own? And he has, and he wanted to go there, and that's fine. And it can be a choice someone makes for them to say, my adoptive family has a second home in this area that is close by, they could come and visit me. It's also the school they went to. That's kind of up to that particular student. But I just hated how it was portrayed as like, oh, how dare the mean lady go ahead and investigate us for something that's like investigatable.
Yeah.
It really seemed like they didn't have like, this is a very heartwarming story, but they kind of fucking blew their load a little bit too early with him, like, overcoming too many things too quick, so they had to give him one last hurdle at the end.
I've been doing some three act structure research as I try to write another book, and this is what we in the business call like the Hightower surprise, or like, you know, there's another one which is like, you know, the where all is lost moment, right? And you do that so that way it's just like, oh, you want to get the audience invested in one final thing, so that way at the end of your movie, like you know, they overcome one final challenge and you feel good about where the movie ends. And they just didn't need to, like, or like you could have done it in maybe like a football game in this ostensibly movie about football, perhaps not in a weird racialized way, which gets even more racist after the NCAA lady.
I was gonna say we are getting more and more racist in our our third act here. So he leaves the interview. He goes ahead and like asks Leanne, like, "Hey, why did you take me in? Did you just want to do this?" And she's like, no." But he is really upset and confused, and like, who can blame him? So he runs away and finds his biological mother, which she said he would do, right? Like, he's a runner. He's left all of his foster homes to go find her. But he runs into instead a gang member who welcomes him back and is like, "Here's a beer," and is like starting to talk about how much he wants to fuck Leanne and Collins. And so, of course, Michael gets angry, and then there's a fight with him, and like it's just all chaos, and it's just really an unnecessary scene, if you ask me, because we've already been over that Michael himself was not involved in a gang, and this is just, spoiler alert, in real life or in the film. And so why did we need this particular scene here where there's like, you know, a young child crying in the background? Like, it just really takes a turn.
I want to clarify, this scene did not happen in real life?
Wait for my game.
Okay, great, good. Oh, fuck, awesome, good. Because this is the thing that I was most worried about, to see whether or not they made up. So can't wait.
So just to spoil my own game, the game I am going to make the boys play is real life or movie, where I recount a particular scene and we have to figure out if it's real life, movie, or in some cases, some of both.
Great, good.
I thought you were going to slide some in that were neither, just to see if we were paying attention to the movie. And then the alien shot SJ. That was real.
What about the scene where they adopted 6 dogs and one of them started playing basketball?
What about the scene where he interacted with a character that wasn't white? Yep, that were right. Not in the movie. Good job.
Only in... Unfortunately, whenever he interacts with someone who isn't white, it's in negative connotations. So... Yep.
It's bad.
Well, he met his unnamed brother at that one restaurant,
true.
And they seemed to have a
his
nice
brother's
time.
name is Marcus.
Okay, they gave him a name,
thankfully.
yeah.
Yep. So he ends up leaving, like, he's fine, he's not too hurt. He tells the investigator he's choosing Ole Miss because that's where his family goes to school. He's accepted into school, and then we get, like, all of this, like, flashing scenes at the end of photos of, like, the actors hugging and having cute moments, and then, like, real photos of them with little updates on all of the characters. And that's more or less the film. I feel like that's all the important notes, and, like, plot important notes, but we'll get into the nitty-gritty scenes in my little game.
It was not good. This movie ends with such a... Like, it's such a fucking wet fart of an ending. And I wanted to enjoy it because, like, there is a good... I am so happy that, like, this dude succeeded. Like, I'm so happy Michael succeeded throughout his, like, endeavors. I'm so happy this family was able to, like, find him and he was able to succeed. But, man, this movie just bums me out.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think we do have to ask the question, is this the most racist movie we've watched for the podcast?
I think 100% for reals, yes.
Because
so.
like the only other one that gets that close is either Urantia, which is just about a racist ideology, which like in content is probably more racist, but like in, you know, for the media we watched, like not really. And God's Not Dead 1, which had a whole bunch of racism in it, but like because it was distributed among different groups, I tend to like give it a little bit of a pass over this, which is just like, let's talk about why white people need to save black people, which was really, really gross.
The God's Not Dead 1 is side character racism. The racism is in this movie, like, baked in its bones. Like, this movie was written to make the white people look amazing.
Yes.
Well, and like, let's also keep in mind what era this came out, right? Like, this movie came out in 2009.
Which is to say, immediately after Obama became president.
That tracks so
we were
hard.
in the quote-unquote post-racial society.
We did it, everyone.
Yeah, like, it was all about colorblindness and all about, you know, really minimizing issues of race rather than acknowledging their import. And I feel Hollywood really wanted and was hungry to tell a feel-good story that was crossing racial lines. And I think this is really a story of how easy it is to tell a real story in a way that is somehow more racist than the actual text of the story, right? Like, we'll get into like what the actual story is, and it is not devoid of racism, and like no story ever is. This is America. But I don't know. I watched this film and I was like, God damn, this is truly a film that thought it was so ahead of its time. What, like 11 years ago, 2009. So it just really thought that it was doing great things 13 years ago that it was not.
I will say, I did almost cry at the end of this movie, so I can't come down too harshly on it. I just, listen, is it the most racist movie we've watched? Yeah, probably. Did I also get, you know, a little bit emotional about the fact that sometimes you can have a genuine human connection with another person? Yeah, I'm not proud. This is just who I am.
I love that so
concerned
much.
about you.
I love it.
Listen, I contain multitudes that are very upsetting.
I'm gonna fly over and give you a hug. Oh, bud.
Don't. I might cry. Apparently, I'll cry at anything.
All right, Michael, hit us with this fun game.
Here we go.
All right. So we're going to like really slow ramp our way. And this one is about casting choices. So real life or fiction, and this is a Michael fiction, not a film fiction, did, much like in a very biblical turn of events, Sandra Bullock decline to take this role 3 times.
I think for sure Sandy O was like, no. And then they were like, here's twice as much money. And they were like, no. And then they were like, here's 4 times as much money. And she was like, you got me.
Yes, I'm with Josh. I think she has a great agent.
So, yes, but you're wrong about the reasons.
Oh,
okay.
She wanted it more racist.
No, actually, Sandra Bullock was incredibly uncomfortable playing such a conservative Christian.
Oh.
And what changed her mind was her meeting the actual Leanne and negotiating what would be a pay cut, but a percentage of all profits.
Smart. There we go. Gotta go for the percentage.
Yeah, because this movie made $300 million.
Potentially the most successful movie we've watched for the show or podcast.
Yeah. Did the coach of the school actually help lobby to get Michael accepted of the Christian school?
I think this is true. I've met some coaches. These guys will do anything to get a slight edge in one game.
Yeah, I'm also going to go with true, especially because like it was revealed at the end that he was taking a job at Ole Miss, right?
Yes, so it is true, and he was the only one that was targeted in the NCAA investigation.
Yeah, of course he was.
Yeah, that one actually tracks.
Yeah, because they were like, what does this family have to gain? But this coach? We got our eyes on you. Okay, so true.
I don't like that.
I forgot. No, this was a fun fact that I almost bungled because the film actually made it worse. So, true or false, was the school were the school mascots named the Wingate Crusaders?
Yes, that was in the movie, right? That had to be. There's no way they changed that.
I
That
think
would be a
they
wild
changed
choice
it.
to change
I think
it.
they changed it. I think it was. I think I'm going to try to guess it for the extra point. What it was? Even I'm calling my shot so far in advance. I think it was some like fucking. I think it was the rebels. I think it was straight up racist.
Their name is actually not racist. It's one of the most innocuous, easy names to make. They were actually in real life known as the Briarcrest Saints.
Why did they change it?
Because the Saints is a. Oh man, I'm going to insult an entire state here, an entire football.
Yeah, hey,
fan
Louisiana,
base.
get his ass.
Okay, so real fact or fake fact, Michael went to 11 different high schools.
Okay, I think I'm going to go with yes. It seems like a weird thing to change.
Yes, I'm also going to go with yes.
Yeah, he went to 11 schools in 9 years.
Jesus
1 year he
Christ.
was absent 51 days.
Jeez.
Uh-huh. And by his freshman year of high school, his GPA was .06.
Yeah, they mentioned that in the movie, and I was like, that's a very oddly specific number.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to point to, like, everyone to understand, it's about 180 days of school.
Did Sean first spot Michael in the stands at his daughter's volleyball game?
No way. That can't be, because that was a weird movie coincidence where he was picking up popcorn. Like, I don't think that's how it actually happened. I think that's a Tim McGraw original.
I mean, I don't know. The popcorn image is very specific. I'm going to say true.
So according to the New York Times, he did not spot Michael at the at his daughter's volleyball game, but at basketball practice.
Yes, that makes... Oh, practice.
Oh.
That's interesting.
Uh-huh.
But they couldn't have added that in because that would show Michael with any amount of, success and understanding of how to do things. They had to make him look as dumb as possible in this fucking movie.
And Michael was there because he was still academically eligible for the boys basketball team that he later joined. What about the family's meet cute with Michael? Do you think that Sean and Leanne learned about Michael in the way that the film portrayed, true or false?
Like walking on the side of the road?
No, like they first heard about him. Like not meeting him on the side of the road. That one's later.
I don't remember what happened in the movie.
So just one of, I think it was SJ in the car, mentioned something.
Okay, that seems reasonable.
Yeah, I was going to say, SJ probably told them about this kid that he knows.
False. Collins was in one of Michael's classes, and she told her dad. And not only that, Sean then made an effort to get to know him, realized he had no money to pay for lunch, and started to pay for his lunches in a scene that was actually cut out of the film.
Oh.
Huh.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I, out of curiosity, looked up SJ. I'm a little disappointed. He served as the assistant athletics director and director of football operations at friend of the podcast, Liberty University.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, now this one is quite a bit more fun in terms of positive. So the essay that was read by the biology teacher, White Walls, did Michael actually write that? Or was it made for the movie?
Ooh.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, otherwise it'd be way too... Yeah, I'm gonna go with it.
He did write it. It was not a random thing that he submitted to a biology teacher. It was actually in his senior year looking back.
Oh.
And it was not to this particular teacher, but this teacher is based off of a actual biology teacher who did discover that he did better when his tests were administered orally. All right, now let's talk about the road scene. Did Leanne actually pick him up off the side of the road heading to the
I
gym?
pray to God not, because we've already established that they knew about his social and economic status beforehand.
Yes, I agree with Josh.
It's true.
Oh, y'all,
Wow.
y'all.
So Leanne was driving. She found him during Thanksgiving break. They saw Michael get off the city bus in the snow, only wearing blue cutoff jeans and a t-shirt. In reality, though, she took him shopping first and made sure that he always had a ride to school first and didn't just instantly go, "You're staying with us." That happened later.
That seems, I want to point out, like, that's the sane, I think, human thing to do, because just to grab a high school student and put him in your house is a bit strange. And also, I understand why the movie didn't show that, because then it would be an hour and 30 minutes, and then I'd be even angrier.
So what about Leanne's work? Is she really an interior designer, or is it kind of like Aaron mentioned and like that's her fuck you job?
I think, I don't know how mean I want to be to this lady. I'm going to go for it. I think, similar to people in Michael's past, that she was an inspiring interior designer.
I mean, I don't know. I liked how Sandra Bullock played an interior designer, so I'm going to say yes.
She is not only an interior designer, an incredibly successful one, so successful that she was actually part of the design team for Extreme Makeover Home Edition.
I would like to issue a formal apology, Leanne. It was a funny goof, though.
Did Michael really never have his own bed prior to living with the family, or is that just like Hollywood sad story to hook you in?
That's true.
I'm gonna go with true, because, like, that's not even the saddest fucking thing. And if they just put that in there as, like, a medium sad, yeah, I think it's true.
It is true. He never had his own bed. Leanne did actually buy him a futon for the same reason that she states that pro athletes use them when they can't find a bed that's big enough.
That's valid. This is yoked.
Yeah, and this is actually like a separate little fun fact I have. So when he was 15 years old, according to an interview with 2020, Michael was 6'2" and weighed 350 pounds.
Jesus Christ.
And then his official stats as a player, he ended up being 6'4" and weighed 309. However, same 2020 documentary, or same 2020 interview, the actor who plays Michael, Quentin Aaron, was 6'8" and weighed 472 pounds.
Okay, that makes sense.
Considerably bigger.
Yeah. Dude's giant.
Exactly. Okay, and this one is maybe my favorite question here. Did Michael really have to learn to play football like we saw in the movie?
Oh, I already know the answer to this one.
Yeah, the answer to this is no.
And
absolutely not.
Michael's still upset about it, and as he should be.
Yeah, that's completely fair.
Yep. He even said, it's Hollywood, so I mean, it's what they do, but at the end of the day, it's still a good story. He also was not a timid player whatsoever. He just naturally has a knack for it. All the scenes with SJ are fake. All of it is fake.
You can show someone as being nice and kind and a loving individual without making them the portrayal they did. It was not a good one.
Totally. I mean, they really threaded the racist needle of white savior, but then also the Black Wiseman character, because he teaches them how to love and is too good for this world and pure and almost ascended, but without their help he couldn't have amounted to anything. It's so fucked up that they managed to do both of those. It's interesting
2-for-1. They really pulled it off. You gotta give them credit.
I do want to point out that in he does say that though he hated that portrayal, but he liked how the movie portrayed the family. And to me, that demonstrates that, like, these people really did a good thing and left an amazing impact on this man's life. And the fact that the movie was able to portray that, awesome. It just covered it in so many bad things.
Yes. I only have a couple more, but these are two of my favorites here. And it's about the game. And these two scenes actually made me glad I watched the game. So was Michael silent when racist fans were taunting him? Like in the movie?
Ooh, I think he was.
Yeah, I mean, what can you do?
What you can do is give him a middle finger like he did in real life.
Yeah,
Nice.
get him.
Good.
And it's still silent.
Did he really lift up the opposing player and carry him off the field?
That has to be
Yes,
fake.
that 100%.
He did it?
Yep, he did it.
That's
Yeah.
really good.
That rules.
He did it. He did it. He got the player up to the fence, but not over it in real life. And the refs weren't sure what to call it and got him for excessive blocking.
Well, like, fair, I guess.
I feel like holding would have worked.
Yeah, like a literal.
Okay, what about the Real Housewives of Tennessee scene? Is that based on something real, or is that Hollywood teaching us a lesson about the racism of white women?
Mathematically,
I think it's true.
I'm just going to go with true, just with the demographic I know in Tennessee.
Is absolutely true. And Leanne actually said that she cut the women out of her life and said, you need to mind your business, you worry about your life, and I'll worry about mine.
Get him.
Good.
What about the Thanksgiving scene at the dinner table? Did Michael actually inspire them to eat at the dinner?
That seems movie made up.
I want it to be fake.
Okay, so not only is it true, but it started on like a random night and the family did it and only do it to this day when they have dinner with him.
Okay. I think that is a different, because having Thanksgiving dinner
Yes.
is a different context, so
Yeah.
I'm going to give myself half a point for that.
What about the Christmas card?
Oh, that's real.
That's got to be real.
It is real. It's completely real. Beyond that, though, not only is that real, the call from the cousin is real, too.
Oh my god. That does not surprise me. That just sucks.
And let's talk for a moment about Miss Sue. How will I ask this question?
Is she truly a Democrat?
Yeah, is Miss Sue actually who we see?
Yeah, I'll say so.
I'm
Sure.
going to go with no just to spice it up.
So to quote Sean, that will answer this, he said, "We had a black son before we had a Democrat friend. It is true. Miss Sue was she was an outspoken atheist, though, and that's why she wasn't hired by the Christian school.
I see.
She was absolutely a liberal. She worked with Michael 6 days a week until about 11:30 at night most nights.
Jesus
And-
Christ.
She actually did follow him to college and continued tutoring him.
That's insane.
Mm-hmm. And I am going to end this with, do we think Leanne and Sean really own dozens of Taco Bells and KFCs?
Almost 100.
Yes.
It is absolutely positively true. They own more than 85 at this point.
That's insane.
So it seems like a lot of this, it seems like very little of this was made up, which is very interesting. And
Yeah, I mean, like some big ones, like he was investigated by the NCAA. He did not get into the fight that we saw.
okay, so that was the one that I was concerned about, the fight thing at the end.
Yeah,
So
the first
just-
90% of the movie's good. Like,
That's the thing. Like, all of our criticisms were borne out to be true. So what actually happened is when he was at college, he got into a fight with a teammate who had visited their home. He had been insulted and then made comments that he was going to have sex with Collins and Leanne. Michael got mad, chased him, threw him into the ground, picked him up by the throat, beat him in the face. The 3-year-old son of one of the tutors was knocked to the floor and had a bad head wound. He ended up being fine. The other teammate went to one of the coaches' home. Michael turned himself in, had to have community service. But what actually happened is whenever Michael went home to see his mom, bad things happened. Like, he went one time and found her being arrested. He ended up also in custody because they were like, hey, what's going on here? And also, cops are racist. And then, just so we don't end too complimentary to a certain Miss Leanne, I am actually going to add one more to this segment.
Oh boy.
Did Leanne really fake Michael's baby picture for the graduation?
Yes.
Yeah.
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 Of course she did. Yeah.
She basically Googled cute black babies and used one of those photos.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because I saw that in this. I was like, this was a comedy moment, huh? This was played for a laugh.
It was a true story moment.
Yes, but the film frames it as something funny
Yep.
and not something they should have just left out for, the sake of being polite to all involved.
Yeah.
And I want to point out, like, he had a fairly successful career. Like, he played for the Ravens, the Titans, the Panthers. I think he played for like 8 or 9 years, and then eventually wasn't accepted back by the Panthers due to failing a physical, most likely due to multiple concussions, and which is the story of so many athletes, of like finding success finally, and then because that success is involved in an incredibly violent sport, being ejected from it. And from what I've seen, he's still doing well, which is unfortunately surprising, because most athletes run out of money almost immediately as soon as it's gone. But he started a couple charities to try to help, like, the foster programs and impoverished youth.
He wrote a book, didn't he?
I think he wrote like 2 or 3. 3 based on him. He wrote 1, which is incredible. And I think that I wish the movie was based on him. I really do. Mm-hmm. And I don't understand why we have to make, like, inspiring movies off to the side of the, like, person who's inspiring. Immediately what comes to mind is there's a Serena Williams movie coming out that is based off of Serena Williams' dad, which is... Yeah, it's a different energy, but, like, I don't care as much about... like, what this family, I care way more about Michael Oher. Like, this dude's the interesting guy. But I don't know. I don't know what American media's, like, fascination with, like, the peripheral of greatness.
I mean, it's the same reason, like I said at the top of the episode, that, like, Green Book was such a successful movie, too. It's just, like, people like to feel good about racial conflict.
They do.
And that's why these kind of narratives are very popular. I mean, fucking white saviorism narratives go back, centuries, right? So
in Green Book,
they're nothing new.
In Green Book, we got a white man explaining very simple things to a black man, and in this one, we got a 8-year-old kid explaining football to a teenager.
To a professional, to a guy who had been playing football for years, yeah.
Someone who knew the game better than all of us combined on this chat. Like, if an 8-year-old was describing it to, like, any of us, that's acceptable.
Yeah, like, any 8-year-old who tries to explain football to me, I'm not going to listen to you, but I would understand why they would feel the need.
Yeah, I think probably, the most insidious part of this movie was, in fact, the reception to it, which was so positive. I mean, it got like a 66 on Rotten Tomatoes, which, like, isn't incredible, but, like, I looked up, since this is ostensibly, a Christian podcast, I looked up some Christian, like, reviews of this, and one from Leticia Velasquez of US Catholic Quote, "It seems that the tired theme of a person haunted by a traumatic childhood which drives him or her over the edge has finally played itself out. In tough economic times, we need more encouragement than self-pity." So thanks, Letitia, for that one in the middle of the Great Recession. Another one from Heidi Hess Saxton for Catholic Mom. Quote, "Until more families, black, white, and every other color, step forward, willing to risk a loving and troubled a loving and troubled teenager out of love for Christ. The best we can hope for is that these children never make the headlines for a far more ignoble reason." So, like, yeah, this movie landed exactly where it wanted to, which is to say, to make white people feel good.
Yeah, for real. And, that's disappointing, but not surprising. One thing I will say is that Michael Orr himself is kind of opposed to this sort of criticism, and I feel like that's an elephant in the room that we need to address. He personally feels like, look, this family did a really good thing, and while he has a lot of complaints with the movie portrayal, he feels very protective of the fact that, like, this family did this because they care for him, they're still in his life, and that basically more families should do this.
And we literally, like, our podcast is all, if you are a rich person and want to throw, like, money at kids that have, like, promise and, like, you see something in them, I'm all for rich people giving money to give kids a shot in higher education. All for it. I think that, like, our main criticism, and a criticism I can get behind fully, and even Michael Orr shares this one, is, hey, don't make the black character super stupid to make the white people look better. You can... This family did a great thing, but, like, it's not... He had it in him, and I wish they gave us more of that.
Like, if you're going to make a movie about someone, they don't need a character arc. Just play it straight, and I'm sure you'll figure out interesting stories to tell along the way.
Yeah, like, overcoming that much in and of itself, like, is a character arc.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
This movie made me want a documentary on this topic more than I wanted a movie.
Totally. I agree with that.
All right.
Should we drop some ratings?
Yeah, our rating.
I just want to say I'm very, very proud of Aaron for remembering it. And I'm going to give this one Heisman.
I have moved to a new rating system. I'm going to be using Deadspin's Popes Ranked from now on. So of the 266 popes on this list, I think it probably has to be updated because this was made in 2013. I'm going to give this movie Pope 130, which is Lando.
Calrissian?
Nope, just Lando.
Our friend's dog!
That's true. Shoutouts to Julian.
Shout out to Julian and his dog who no longer has testicles.
I am going to give this film 2 out of 5 liberal atheist tutors because, I do think we could have used a little bit more of that energy in this film.
Darn tootin'. What? Real quick poll. How much do we think that Michael Orr supported the Capitol riot? Real quick. Do we think he was pro or anti-Capitol riot?
Let's just do a quick.
Because I know what his last tweet was, and it was like, "Do we even have a vice president?"
Ooh.
So he's not probably as liberal as we want him to be on this podcast.
No. But
I'm just praying for the influence of Miss Sue.
Yeah.
Oh, everything still stands, but yikes.
Well, on that note...
God, what are we doing next week?
What the fuck are we doing next week? Do we got another docu-series up?
It is scheduled for another documentary about one of my favorite musical acts. It's the Imagine Dragons documentary Believer.
I am so amazed that this exists, and I sent it to Aaron, whose response was, "Who the fuck do you think I am that I don't already know about this?" Oh my god, yeah,
It'll be something. It'll be a much lighter... Well, actually it won't. It'll actually be really grim, I think, because it's about queer suicide in the Mormon church. So, fuck. Man, we need to get some funny ones.
This was supposed to be our funny one, and then we all watched it and went, oh.
It's fine. It's fine. It'll come out in the edit. When we're not trying so hard to make a comedy podcast, where can we find each other on the internet, folks?
I'm at Green History on Twitter.
I'm at Michael's Diamonds on Twitter.
I'm at AaronSXL on Twitter, where you can find me tweeting about tabletop RPGs and health policy. You can listen to the other podcasts I do at Mortified Pod. Me and Layla just released an episode about the painting game Chicory, A Colorful Tale, which was really fun. We talked about imposter syndrome. So if that sounds interesting to you, check that out. But yeah, we will all see you all next week when we cover Believer. But if this podcast brought you, like it did to me, to tears, just remember that it is okay to cry, because even Jesus wept. We'll see you all next time.
And in this case, even Aaron wept.
God.